Congress has taken a decision to fight the next election on the theme of One India, attacking the RSS for what it says is a divisive policy. Is that something you're in agreement with?
Yeah, I think that's been the Congress's stand from day one. Not now. I mean, ever since the Congress party has been there. We're a secular country. We all believe in all religions being part of this secular India, and that's the way it should be. And I'm very happy that this decision has been taken.
I'm very glad you said that, because that leads directly to the next question, because people are saying the exception to all this One India stuff is you. That while you come here and you talk about secularism and One India, when you go back to Punjab, you play Sikh politics.
Tell me where.
All right, let's take first of all the allegations made by Mr. Badal Jr. on our channel. He says that the Commission of Inquiry that's attacked him and his father and found them guilty of various things has first of all been a put-up job done by you in connivance with hardliners to attack him.
Now that is absolute rubbish. The fact is very clear that there was an incident in Bargadi where firing had taken place, where people had been killed, people had been injured, and we put a fact-finding mission of a retired, very eminent High Court judge to come up, Justice Ranjit Singh, to come up. Now he's done a complete report of nearly 600 odd pages, and he says that this is not enough. You must carry on and investigate further and hold the people to task. Now that was put to entirely because of this religious provocation that went on, and the way that you opened fire, no control over fire, you just had random shooting and people were running away and you were shooting them from behind. All these were the things that had to be, and we had to pinpoint who was responsible for that. And that is what the Commission has done. And it starts from Mr. Parkash Singh Badal and comes down to the junior most. Now you don't hold a constable who's been firing responsible. It's the man who gives the order. And the order was given by the Chief Minister himself. And that's what said in the Ranjit Singh report. Now we are going to, based on Ranjit Singh's report, we are going to put up another investigation team to go into really the fact finding which he said is required. The judge says is required.
Now, the Junior Badal, not Mr. Parkash Singh Badal, the Junior Badal says that the Commission was not only a put-up job, you were negotiating throughout with hardcore extremists, some of them, he says, and he made this charge on our channel, with ISI links, as a way of...
I think the Supreme Badal is one, he's learning from his father. His father is a total disinformation. He's a champ master of disinformation, and this is what these youngsters are also doing. And probably that's the way he's learned things from his father. How can it be an ISI job? Here are people who are sitting there. You have lost, I have figures here, which I think it's interesting for you to see, that in this time from 2015 onwards, Bargadi, there have been 74 cases of Guru Granth Sahib desecration, 91 cases of Gutka Sahib desecration, 28 of the Gita, 6 of the Quran and 1 of the Bible. Now this is one of the incidents in the beginning, in the first part was in Bargadi and Bible Kalan, in that area, Johar Ke, you found the Guru Granth Sahib angs, we call them, torn out and just flung into the Ganda, Nalas and all this sort of thing. The people reacted and they came, and I went, the day after the firing I went there. There's a main road coming, then a link road going off. They were sitting on that corner and they were doing part. And Mr. Badal at 2 o'clock in the morning gives the order to his IG, Parkash Singh Badal, the Chief Minister, orders them to take whatever action necessary, because the DGP, Mr. Saini, informed the Chief Minister, then 10 minutes he'll clear the whole show. So the Chief Minister, I believe, earlier or not, it was assumed that the DGP took the decision on his own. But then in this report, when the DGP gave his statement to the Ranjit Singh Commission, he said, I was called by Mr. Badal at 2 o'clock in the morning and told to clear that.
Now the junior Mr. Badal says you're playing Panthic politics. The idea is to portray the Badals as enemies of the Sikh religion, to accuse them of firing on harmless pilgrims or harmless devotees. You're sure it happened?
It happened. The firing took place. The Ranjit Singh Commission has interviewed umpteens of people, and it's really 600 odd pages of it. And this is going in for further investigation. And then you will come out with all the facts.
What about other allegations that your government has been having secret parleys with Khalistanis, with extremists, with people who have ISI links? That's very serious.
I am one of the greatest opponents of all this. I'll come to that. But first let me tell you here, who is now controlling this? Yes, the people who are now, every day there are about anywhere between 500 and 2,000 people who collect at that point. And we have even now They didn't do it, we did it. We've given them, all those 2 boys who were killed, we gave them 1 crore each, and we've given other money to the people who were injured, etc. And so hopefully that is going to be over, because we can't have people agitating for 2 years sitting on the road. And yes, our ministers have been going to try to talk to them out, talk some sense into them to stop this agitation. And I hope that will end now, because the Ranjit Singh Commission has been presented, those boys have got compensation, further investigation, a special investigation team is going to come about. So it's all in hand at the moment. Those people who he's talking about, Dadowal and all these, if you put them in front of me, I don't even know, I've never seen them. They're showing a picture of me standing in the middle of a whole lot of people who I had called to the Punjab Bhavan in Chandigarh to try to talk sense into them, and there must have been about 50-100 people there, and I'm standing with a group, and Mr. Dadowal is supposed to be in that group. Now I told Mr. Badal yesterday in the assembly, I said put 5 people up and put Dadowal in it, and I won't be able to recognize him. I don't meet these people, I never meet them, but yes, one of our ministers was put to go and talk to them.
Your views, you're saying that the meetings that the ministers may have had with these agitators was only to try and resolve the agitation, not to sort of function as agents of Pakistan to fix the Badals.
Absolutely not. You know, our biggest problem in Punjab is ISI's involvement, Pakistan's involvement. I have had about 60 weapons which were since I've come into government, which is 15 months. We've had gangsters there operating. Now earlier on they used to be called Khalistanis, now they're called gangsters. And there were about 50 weapons which we collected from them. I had made it absolutely clear that either you lay down your arms or you face the consequences. 14 of them have been shot dead, and another 100 have been arrested, and they've been put they're in jail now. So the ISI is making a mockery of my state and a mess in my state, and I am going to support them. This is just, as I said, this is just the Badal disinformation channel open again.
The Badals say that while this kind of agitation has been going on for a while there has been this kind of sentiment building up, perhaps with ISI backing, the Badals have always fought against this kind of extremism for the unity of India.
Rubbish. I have been part of the whole process. From in the 80s when I was there. Badal, if anybody is responsible for the problems, you may say Bhindrawale was there or somebody else was there. The man who was calling the political shots was Mr. Parkash Singh Badal. He never let a settlement come about. I was part of that negotiating team. There was the Congress president, the Prime Minister who was talking to Sant Singh Longowal. Then there was a committee of secretaries who were talking to another group, and I, Rajiv ji, myself and 1 or 2 others were talking to some of them, and we were trying to put the whole thing together. He is the man who every time we came to some sort of solution, he used to sabotage it. Now and if you look at Badal's history, whenever he wanted to become chief minister, he'd start some sort of an agitation. There would be a lathi charge, people would be beaten up and all and put in jail, he'd be put in a rest house, he'd come out a great hero and become chief minister again. He's been 5 or 6 times chief minister. This is his system, modus operandi, and this time it went wrong. The Bhindrawales took over the agitation and went on, and I've heard him tell people in speeches, "Ladko lago aage," he said, "Mundeo lago age, hum asi thode piche hain." That is what he used to. That was his slogan.
You're saying that the Punjab agitation, which led to the loss of so many thousands of lives, you're saying that Mr. Badal, far from standing up for the unity of India and all of that, as he now claims, actually had a role in the agitation until it got taken over.
I'm surprised at some of the things that happen. You know, people have a short memory and things people tend to forget. There were 3 men who were calling the shots then. There was Sant Longowal, he was the president. There was Gurcharan Singh Tora, who was the SGPC president, and Parkash Singh Badal. Sant Longowal was a simple man. He used to want to carry these 2 along. Tora many times used to agree. He had that courage of his convictions. He said, but the sabotage was always done by this chap. Parkash Singh Badal, the whole thing. Look at the white papers. And the white paper the government of India produced, and I'm also named in it, and how many times this man backtracked on his things. Look at the books that have been written about it. Everybody, it is Parkash Singh Badal who is the sole man. When history is written objectively, you will see that Parkash Singh Badal will fall in as the man who is responsible for disturbing.
When the Badals accuse you of supporting extremism or Khalistanis, how do you react?
As I said, father earlier, now son too. They are just masters of disinformation. And they sort of build up these little theories and little. If anybody has been fighting this ISI and the Pakistani policy in India, it has been me. Whether it was in Kashmir or whether it is here. I am every day dealing with them. I am not going to let them do anything in my state. Once is enough. I have lost 35,000 people in Punjab because of this Pakistani Khalistan.
Yeah, that during that Punjab insurgency or whatever you want to call it, 35,000 people lost their lives.
30,000 people lost their lives, the innocent people, the police forces, army we don't know because they don't give their casualties, and the ordinary people who've been caught in the crossfire. So about 35,000 people. I want to put up a memorial to them in Ludhiana if I get a chance.
And far from fighting for the unity of India, the idea was then to break up India.
That was not Badal's. Let me be. Agitation. Then, agitation was to break up India. I mean, Pakistan had sold this thing to these chaps that the moment Golden Temple is stormed by the Indian army, we'll walk in. And that's how all these guys got going.
Let's move on now to the riots. You're aware that there has been a controversy over the statements Rahul Gandhi has made and you've made. Now I know for a fact, from what I remember of that period, that you came to Delhi during the riots and in the aftermath. You toured many of those areas, and you have said since then that, contrary to what people might say later, you heard from the victims that certain congressmen were involved. Is that correct?
Absolutely correct. I'll tell you what happened then. The Akali Dal, I was not in the Akali Dal. I resigned from the Congress on Blue Star, and I was just one of those individuals hanging around. And when this incident took place, Mrs. Gandhi was assassinated and this trouble started. Rajiv was sitting in some airport in Bengal somewhere, and Mrs. Gandhi had been assassinated. The Akali Dal sent Mr. Badal, Barnala and Mr. Balwant Singh, and from Parliament they were turned around and sent back. Amarinder Singh, a friend of mine who was Speaker earlier of the House, he, myself, my cousin Randhir, who was in the sports, and my brother Amarinder Singh, four of us flew in Ravi's plane and we landed at Safdarjung. And that was for 3 days. I think the Gurpurb or Guru Nanak Dev Ji was on the second or third, I can't remember. But till then, we visited all the camps. We couldn't go to the Trans Jamna area because it was bad. But all this area, I remember seeing bodies floating in the gutters. And Guru Rakabganj Sahib, Seeskanj Sahib, all of them had refugee camps going. And I went around asking them what happened. And some of them were in shock, they couldn't speak. Those who were a bit collected and could speak, they told me these mobs came and they did this to us. And I said, can you name anybody? They named Bhagat, they named Sajjan Kumar, they named Arjun Das and Dharamdas Shastri. These were the people now. This was, for 4 days, these are the names I heard.
I need to ask you a specific question because you've been quoted as apparently having said that. Did they name Jagdish Titler?
No. That is what I have said. They did not name. Now, when did Jagdish Titler's name came? Very interesting. When the assembly elections were on, or parliamentary elections, and Khurana was his opponent. Khurana is the one who raised this issue to say that the Titler ne to bade Sikhon ko mara hai. Now what happened afterwards, if anybody raised it...
Saying that you named Titler is wrong.
I never named Titler. I never named Titler. I named these four gentlemen I named, and I can tell you that I heard this with my own ears. Not only me, the other 3-4 with me who heard them. Nobody ever mentioned Titler's name. That is why I've said so. I said if subsequently some inquiries proved him wrong, proved him to be there, then that's something different. I can only tell you what I heard for 4 days going around the camps myself, and these were the 4 names I heard.
Among the worst riots we had seen in post-partition India. In the aftermath of the riots, do you think the Congress did enough to make amends, to heal the wounds? You weren't a congressman then. People like Bhagat went on to become powerful ministers.
No, Bhagat went on after that. I think he was earlier.
He won the largest possible majority in Delhi, if you remember, after the riots. Yeah.
I can't remember.
Do you think the Congress should have moved faster to make amends? Because what happened was surely a massacre.
Amends you can make if you are involved yourself. Now, but I heard that speech or the interaction which Rahul had at the LAC, and I heard what he said. Now, he's absolutely correct. There were individuals from our party who were probably involved, or not probably, but were involved, at least what I saw for myself. But you can't blame the whole party for that. I mean, like that, if I say there were 26 RSS men who are booked in this Tilak Kumar police station for having rioted, then does it mean the whole RSS is involved?
But the Congress acts as a local RSS.
They are linked there also. They are mentioned in the FIR, which is in the Tilak Market police station.
Let's cut to the chase. The opposition is hoping that by raising the 1984 riots, they will achieve two things. One is they will influence the vote in Punjab in next year's general election. Do you think that will happen?
They've been trying for years. They are completely off track at the moment. Punjab has changed. Punjab wants peace. Punjab wants development. Boys want jobs. Industry is required. So, today these things, this is part of history. If it's going to be forgotten, no. Let me tell you that. But we are a very young religion. We are only 550 years old. This next year we are going to Guru Nanak Dev Ji came. And in those 550 years, lots of things have happened. And they've all become part of history and consigned to history. And so will this be. It will always be remembered. But it's nothing that is going to change the voting pattern.
All right. So that's objective one. Objective two is to remind people of what they see as an equivalence between the Gujarat riots of 2002 and the Sikh massacres of 1984. They are saying you want to point fingers at the BJP and its people for Gujarat. What about 84? Is there an equivalence in your mind?
I think there was a different situation in Gujarat. No, well, Gujarat, from what all the reports that have been coming in, it was engineered. These riots were engineered. Here, it was a reaction. I think Bhindranwale and all this Khalistani movement. No, not at all. No, I've been in the Congress now since 96.
But you weren't in 84.
84. No, the riots took place. No, I resigned after Blue Star.
And then after Black Thunder again there was a problem.
Then I was part of the Akali Dal. I was a minister then, and when Black Thunder was, they did the same thing. I resigned again. So that was the.
But you don't think there's an equivalence between the Sikh riots and the Gujarat riots?
No, because here it was people were getting fed up. There were killings every day in Punjab. Hindus were taken out of buses and shot dead. I remember that near Kapurthala. The first incident took place in Balbeda next to Patiala, where in the December, January early morning, there were about 8 or 9 artiyas from Namandi sitting basking in the sun. When people came and shot them dead, this was happening all the time. So there was generally a feeling building up. There were how it all started. They had in mandirs in Punjab, you would get cows' tails and cows' ears thrown in. In the gurdwaras, you would have cigarette packets thrown in, and the clashes took place. So it was a general feeling of, what should I say, which had spread all over India, that this was completely, what was happening in Punjab was to break up the country, into that sort of a feeling came. And I think it was a reaction. No, it doesn't justify the riots at all. But that's why I think you found people rising like this.
So you don't think there's a parallel?
No, you can't. Godhra and all was something totally different.
Have you spoken to Rahul Gandhi about this? Because your views are slightly at variance with Rahul Gandhi's, because apparently he said no congressmen were involved.
No, he never said that. What did he say? He said that there may be individuals from our party who were involved, but not the party. Which is correct.
Which is your correction. Let me take you now to Mr. Singh's trip to Pakistan. As I understand it, you were not against his going to Pakistan, is that correct?
Well, no minister can leave without asking the chief minister. So I gave him permission to go. He had been Imran Khan's cricketing buddy, and they had played together, and they knew each other. So that's fine. If the fellow is being sworn in as Prime Minister, let him go. If he wants to go, he's go. So that I had no objection to, and I don't even have an objection to him sitting next to that Kashmir so-called POK president. Now, if I was put there, I've never seen. I didn't even know, for instance, they had a president, and the fellow sitting next to me could have been anyone. But what I objected to was, and I still object to that he goes and we are losing people every day. We are losing about 300 people killed or wounded every year in Kashmir, in northern Kamal, which looks after the Kashmir area. And you go then and you hug the general who has given the orders for those people to be shot. I mean, that is unacceptable, totally unacceptable. And I told this to Mr. Sidhu when he came back. But then, as I said, a soldier looks at things differently, and an ordinary civilian differently. And probably he never thought in this regard. I would have turned my back on the general. Like I turned my back on this.
You would have turned your back?
Of course, I've turned my back on this Sajjan fellow from Canada, the defense minister. He is the Khalistan chief. You should talk about them. It was Sajjan and 4 other MPs who are in Trudeau's cabinet who were the Khalistanis. And I refused to meet him.
You're saying that at the swearing in, if General Bajwa had come up to you and wanted to hug you, you would have turned your back, snubbed and walked away.
How much they are disturbing my state? Okay, Kashmir, they are doing what they are doing. But what are they doing in my state? You think every day we are facing this scenario? Every day. Who? Yes, I think Sidhu should have. But I just watched that snippet. He walked up to him and this fellow was going, the general was going this way, suddenly he must have seen a turban and he turned towards him and they shook hands and I think Sidhu gave him a hug and then they chatted for about 2 or 3 minutes and then they gave another hug and the general went his way. But I would never have.
Quite a lot seems to have transpired in those 2 minutes according to Mr. Sidhu. Various issues
he made a long discourse and long discussion in 2 minutes. So I don't know what he really said. I don't know what.
But let me now take you to the issue that everybody goes on and on about, which is on the one hand, we started with this, the Congress talks about fighting religious extremism, fighting the RSS as you mentioned. On the other hand, you are passing laws on sacrilege and blasphemy. Are you not turning the clock back?
You know, this is again, I'm telling you, this information once again. Who brought it in the assembly and who passed it? I'll tell you. The assembly, a bill was passed by the Akali Dal saying that anybody who burns the Guru Granth Sahib or damages the Guru Granth Sahib, they will be imprisoned for life. Now that bill was sent for the presidential consent and it was refused, denied. It was sent back to say that this is secular India and you can't have a bill for one community. So what we have done is we have said that it should cover every community. And that is the Sikh, the Guru Granth Sahib, the Gita, the Bible, whatever else you may say, all of them must come into it in the Quran. And if anybody does anything like this, well, I hope that this will be a deterrent, what we have put. But if not, then he has to face the music. Because I am not going to allow Punjab.
Life imprisonment? The bill allows for life imprisonment.
That is, I think, a serious enough deterrent. If somebody does,
how do you define sacrilege or blasphemy?
You know, when you try to incite 2 communities to clash, like was done earlier with the tails and the cigarettes, now it is being done by tearing the holy books. And that is to get 2 people communities to clash. Now let's say the Gita was torn and people were worked up, and the Guru Granth Sahib was torn and they were worked up. Next thing would have been a clash. When it happened, the first incident that took place was in Patiala. I was in Parliament then in 82. I left Patiala after lunch and I got here and I went to bed early. And I remember at about, in those days it was the old system of communication, the telephone rang near my bed and I picked it up. It was Rajiv. He was then General Secretary of the party. He said, Amrinder, what's happening in Patiala? I said, nothing. I said, just come from there. He said, what are you saying? He said, oh, the aag lagi padi hai. I said, how? What happened? He said, pata nahi, you better go. So I left. I couldn't get anyone on the phone. In those days you couldn't get through in any case at the best of times. And I went back to Patiala. I reached about 4 or 5 in the morning. And I went, there was nobody there, everyone was in town. I went there and the whole city was aflame. What had happened? They had gone into Kali Deviji's mandir and thrown ears and tails of cows, and they had gone to the Dukunwan Sahib Sarovar and thrown cigarettes, and within 5 minutes the city had clashed. And this started happening all over Punjab. Now this is religious provocation.
But you don't think there are enough laws in the books to act against this kind of religious provocation?
No, I have been through that time. 35,000 Punjabis have lost their lives in that time. And I'm damned if I'm going to allow any of this sort of business to take place in Punjab again. And if anybody wants to try it, let him try it. We will deal with him good and proper. We've got a law now. I hope we get presidential assent for this, because the only objection the president had was it couldn't be only for Sikhs, but for everybody. I hope he will give us the assent, and then we'll deal with them properly.
But you don't accept that there is a precedent. If Yogi Adityanath now does something similar, he's not going to be concerned about preventing riots. He may have a different agenda. You don't think, in a way, by opening the door, you've perhaps opened it a little bit too wide?
No, why? This is a good deterrent. The stronger the action, the better initially. I hope that people will think twice before doing something. If I had said, now you know, like
Let's say a journalist says something with Yogi Adityanath or some other BJP chief minister.
This is what the newspapers today were saying about Pakistan. Just this, where you can, as far as we are concerned, if there is any sort of attempt made to create a clash between two communities by using your holy books, that to me is blasphemy. That is it. That's it. Not the Pakistani system. That anybody who speaks against Islam.
I was about to say that. It begins to sound a lot like a Talibanized system.
No, not at all. I'm very sorry for that poor old governor who did a good job by raising his voice. He lost his life in that process. But this is unfortunate that this has to be resorted to. But we have to have tough, stringent measures. Like, for instance, these gangsters who are being armed by the ISI and the police who come in and are shooting and killing people here, we've said, lay down your arms or you'll be shot. And that is it. That's my clear instructions to the police. If they lay down their arms, take them, lock them up. 100 of them been locked up. Those who took out their arms and engaged the police, well, they were shot.
Let's go back to where we started. We started with Mr. Badal, the junior Mr. Badal, and what he said about you. You are aware that while you attacked the Badals a lot during the campaign, there is a sense in your party that having got into office, you are now taking it easy. There's not enough being done about the Badals. You're still sort of fighting cases.
I am suffering because of the Badals. For 13 years I've got court cases against me. Even today, I'm Chief Minister. The cases are still pending, which the Badals want. Now, I don't believe in that system. I believe in due process. I think if the investigation, I could have picked up on this Ranjit Singh report, or even earlier than that, I could pick up Badals, I could pick up others and lock them up, but I don't believe in that. I think there has to be a system in this country, and that is that we have to wait for justice to prevail and then take whatever necessary action. I didn't, last time you will ask me, I locked up Badal, I didn't lock him up. The court locked him up. Because when he was, and then they all said Amarinder Singh is locked up, Badal, I had nothing to do with it. His lawyer didn't show up that day, and the court sent him to jail. And that fellow became his AG for 2 terms or 3 terms afterwards. But now whether that was done intentionally or not to gain public sympathy, God knows, because Badal is a great maneuverer on these sort of things. I have worked with him. When I joined the Akali Dal in 85 and right till 96 when Mrs. Gandhi brought me back, I was part of the Akali system. I know him inside out. There is nobody who is more conniving than Mr. Parkash to suit himself.
A final question. We have general elections coming up. You've done very well in Punjab in the assembly election. Can you repeat that at the next election?
We had a by-election in Gurdaspur, a parliamentary by-election. We took by 2/3 majority. We got 2/3 by the way in Parliament Assembly now, and we took it by 2/3 majority where Sunil Jakhar was elected. Then we had election in Shahkot, an assembly by-election, which we again took by 2/3, and we've got just yesterday the code was put into force in Punjab for the Panchayat and Samati elections, which are coming up now in September. Hopefully we're going to sweep those also, and then followed by Parliament.
How many seats?
I've told my leadership 13.
You're sure?
13 is our number, and we'll take them all. Yes, I think so. I think people want now a different system. They want development, they want peace, they want jobs. I've got so many boys, I can't find jobs for so many boys and girls. And they are looking today, a new generation is looking the other way. They are not into this, bigotry and all that sort of stuff.
We'll see if you're right, Captain Amrinder Singh. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.